Just a few steps away from the new Baxter Patrick James Island Library, you'll find the Evergreen Cemetery. And inside lies generations of James Island history.
I try to tell my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren that it's important. You have to know where you came from to know where you're going.
The cemetery dates back to the Grimble Plantation on James Island.
It at least goes back to when the Grimble family owned land in that area, so I can't pinpoint a date, but we have seen it on plats. I think the earliest marked burial that we know of is 1906, so we're looking at least over 100 years, possibly older, for sure.
Many people buried in the cemetery were enslaved on the Grimble Plantation, or are descendants of those enslaved people.
This place, I realized the importance, and then knowing as a young man and understanding from whence my genes came as a slave, and knowing that there were slaves buried here.
Family members of those buried at Evergreen Cemetery say they remember growing up hearing stories of their history.
I brought my son and my daughter-in-law out here a couple Sundays ago, and they were taking pictures. I showed them where all of our family members were and told them how we were connected to the Ropers and the Gladdens and the Wilders, because the families intermarried.
Evergreen Cemetery was not only a place of rest, but a place of discovery and a way to study genealogy. But when the cemetery closed for burials in 2003, a new problem developed.
And then, I'll be honest, my fear was that there was no one actively pursuing the care.
And that's when Arthur Wilder stepped in.
I went and visit my mother's grave. So when I came back here, I found out that the grave was what I call, the whole cemetery was raggedy. When I say raggedy, was, you know, bushes and weeds, and everything was all over the place. So I went back to the church, and I asked the deacon of the church what happened. Why don't they clean out the graveyard? And he told me that because they don't bury any people there, anyone there anymore, they don't clean up the graveyard.
Arthur Wilder decided he at least needed to care for his family's grave sites.
You know, and the whole family was there, and not only the Wilder family, but the Smalls family, where my mother came from. And that's why I started cleaning up the grave. And then not only did I clean up my family grave, but then all of them cousins. And then if I clean up the cousin grave, heck, I'm cleaning up, they're going a third of the grave, you know, because technically we are related one way or another.
So Arthur became the volunteer caretaker of the Evergreen Cemetery.
It was a one-man operation, and then I got help for a while. And then there was a lady in New York. She sent money to her sister, who gave it to me so I can hire somebody to help me.
Once librarians in the Charleston County Public Library's South Carolina History Room learned about the new library's location and proximity to Evergreen Cemetery, they were determined to learn as much as possible about the people buried there and preserve that history.
I think it's a good marriage for both, because there's a lot of information that could be gathered for genealogy purposes, you know, from those that were buried in the cemetery. And as far as the library is concerned, they have all kinds of resources that the community would be able to access.
CCPL launched a months-long research project in Evergreen Cemetery, uncovering unmarked graves and learning more about the history of those buried here. Join me next Monday for a Meet Your Library episode all about the discoveries made through that research.